Today's show sponsor is Sienna Dawn Media Integrated Marketing Agency. Sienna Dawn Media is more than just a marketing agency. They're your partners in progress. Their mission is simple: to alleviate marketing bandwidth, allowing creative business owners to focus on what they set out to do: create. Sienna Dawn Media empowers creatives to thrive without the burden of managing their own social media and marketing campaigns. So if you're ready to set sail toward new horizons, let Sienna Dawn Media chart the course and steer your business toward success. Visit siennadawnmedia.com.
Blah, 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 blah.
Welcome to the Our Forever Smiles podcast, a podcast created to support mothers of children who were born with clefts and those who love them. I'm your host, Laura Arroyo, and I'm also a mother of a daughter who was born with a surprise cleft palate. I know the challenges you face every day. Whether you have just learned the difficult news of your baby's cleft lip or palate, you're in the midst of pre-op or post-op, or you're an OG cleft mom, this podcast is for you. In a weekly conversation, we will talk about everything from feeding and speech therapy to surgery and school. We'll share tips from guest experts and advocates, and even share a little joy in the process. You can listen to Our Forever Smiles wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to the Our Forever Smiles Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. I am Laura Arroyo. Before we jump into this episode, I would like to invite you to join this community to hear conversations with other cleft moms and advocates that will help you feel supported along your journey. All I want you to do is click on the Facebook group page that is linked in the episode notes. You can speak directly to the guests from this podcast, ask questions, and talk to a community of cleft moms that are eager for answers but also willing to help. As a note, we are not medical doctors, and we do not intend for you to use the information that we share here today as medical advice. We are parents and advocates who love our children, and we are sharing our own personal experiences. I have a guest she's been in contact with me for a while now. I feel like, of course, I've connected with so many people on Instagram and Facebook, but Jimena has been one of those people that she will reach out. She will ask the questions. She's super friendly. And I got the honor and pleasure to meet her in person at CleftCon. Jimena is a waitress at a local restaurant in her small town where everyone knows her, which is not a shocker. She tries to educate her customers and friends about the cleft journey, including doctor's visits and surgeries that her son Mateo will need in his future. Welcome, Jimena.
Hello. Thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to share your story. I know sometimes it can be really tough. I feel like sometimes when I have conversations with people, they're like, I'm so sorry, I'm so emotional. And I'm like, well, how couldn't you be? You've gone through something really hard. So I understand.
Yeah, especially like when I found out about Mateo, like I was not depressed, but I felt like it was my fault. So talking about the process brings back memories, and it's really hard. It's hard, but we're doing good now.
Hello, everyone. Sorry to interrupt, but I need a little bit of help. If you're listening to this on the Apple Podcast app or YouTube, you may see a follow plus sign or subscribe button. If you're able to, it would mean the world to me if you could follow or subscribe. That's the best way to support this show. If you subscribe, I'm able to show it to potential guests or different brands. It helps to grow the show and reach more communities to continue building awareness about the cleft lip and palate journey on a global scale. Thank you so, so much. Back to the conversation. That's good to hear. And so I know that you have an older daughter and you also have Mateo. Mateo is your youngest. So were you planning on your pregnancy? How was it in terms of like your family planning? Did Mateo come as a surprise, or was this something that you all wanted to jump into?
So we didn't want a baby yet because we've been trying to build a house for the longest time, and then COVID hit, and then everything was super expensive. We just didn't think about it, and then it happened. So it was like a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess like just going through the motions of learning about your diagnosis or Mateo's diagnosis, what was that day like learning about that? Was it just like routine pregnancy, going in for your anatomy scan, or how did you find out?
So mine was actually not at my 20-week appointment. We did, so I had a C-section with Elisa, emergency C-section. Then with Mateo, I think they just did some kind of blood work before, and then they're like, hey, your protein's too high. They're like, we want to do some ultrasounds. So we're in a small town, and they come from Tyler I think every third Wednesday or something like that. So they came down, and after the ultrasound, they took us to a room, and we waited there for a little bit, like 10 minutes. And I was like, you need to hurry up, because like I'm already like feeling weird. Like you get a vibe, you know? And then she comes in, and she has video chat, by the way. So it looks like it's a cleft lip. But she's like, I'm not sure if it's bilateral, unilateral, just because he had his hand in his mouth. And then this whole pregnancy, he's never lets us see his mouth. If we find out, they're like, it could be worse, because they were thinking like spina bifida or Down syndrome. So I'm like, this is not the easiest way out, but I was like, we should be grateful that it's just, I don't want to say fixable either, because that's just what I've learned so far. I'm like, that's not the word, but that's the easiest, I guess, road out. Very grateful. It was hard. I cried the whole time. I blocked some stuff out, and then Chris, my husband, he was like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And then Elisa was there too. So was trying to like, she wasn't letting us listen to the doctor also. So it was kind of, it was hard.
Yeah. So you're saying, okay, so you get called into this appointment and they find out that your protein levels are really high. So they want to do some more in-depth, like, scans to see what's going on in the womb. And then, so another team comes in because you're from a small town. So they have to come in and
I think it was the next day or something like that.
And so one of the things that kind of shocked me, you said this was all over video?
Yes. So because the main doctor, so I think the ultrasound tech goes there every whatever Wednesday they go. And then since the actual doctor isn't there, they'll just see the pictures on ultrasound, and then they'll video chat you basically.
Oh, wow. Wow. And so your other daughter was there, so it was hard to keep her. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's really tough.
I believe our side is like genetic, maybe, or it's passed down, because I think my husband has a side on his family. And then I think she's a second cousin, or baby first cousin, and her daughter was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate. She said exactly like his.
And so from that appointment, what were you able to, did they give you some resources? Did they tell you, what did they tell you to handle this diagnosis? I can't imagine. So just for context, I'm in North Carolina, we're in the United States, and I'm at a big university hospital where she was delivered. I found out upon birth, and so we were behind the 8 ball in this. But I feel like even then, being at like a bigger university hospital, they were scrambling, and they didn't really have like as much information as I thought that they should have or would have for this. And primarily the nurses. Of course, the Cleft team there is very knowledgeable and they know exactly what to do, but it's just the nurses that were working there. So now, like, being from this like small area, what was that treatment like, or what did they tell you after?
So we actually had an option to stay there at our hospital, or go to Tyler. That's like about an hour away from us. They wanted us to be at a 3-level NICU in case he couldn't be fed or he couldn't be breathing. My husband actually Googled everything. I couldn't. I was reckless. I was emotional reckless, so I couldn't. They're like, oh, this is gonna happen. And then they finally told us, hey, they gave us some options for doctors. We decided to go with Richard Hall. They actually did tell us about Houston Hospital, where they're like, you could be driving, depending on how severe the cleft is, you could be driving there weekly or monthly. And then we're just like, if we're going weekly, because they were like, depending how he's born, he could be needing, I think it's a feeding tube.
Yeah, the NG tube or a feeding
Yes.
tube.
Yeah, so we're like, if that's the case, we can't be going to Houston weekly.
Yeah.
There's a cost for everything, driving, hotel if we need it.
Yeah, the parking. I just spoke with Gina at the Celebrating Mama on Instagram, and she was telling me that you have to pay for parking and everything there.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having to pay parking every week.
No.
Yeah, that's
We're grateful for
wild.
ours because you just go in, open the door, and walk to your office, to your doctor surgeon, and that's it. Went with Dr. Richard Hall, and I think that's the best decision we've had. We actually went in at about 34 weeks. We went to go meet him, and he just went straight forward, and that's what I liked about him. Like, he's like, it's gonna be a process, but it's gonna be worth it. And then you see pictures now how the lip is. He did a really great job.
Yeah.
Amazing, to my knowledge.
Yeah, did Mateo have to do NAM? Did he do that with them
Yes.
as well?
Yes, and we're going weekly. And that was to Plano. That's on the opposite side of Tyler. So that's a 2-hour drive from us.
Oh.
So we were traveling constantly that first 3 months, driving almost every week. I think the last one was like 2 weeks, depending how they needed to change something from the NAM.
Yeah. How long did he have to wear it?
He wore it for about 2.5 months.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 3 actually.
Yeah.
Maybe closer to 3.
Yeah, I jumped to that because I was just thinking about having to go to the weekly appointments, but I do want to talk about the day that he was born. Anytime I ask this question, the moms light up just talking about the birth of their baby. What did you have that dramatic movie rush to the hospital birth, or was it like an induction? How did that go for that day?
Mine was an induction because I had a C-section with Elisa. So you know what? I already know what to expect. So let me just do a C-section because like my friends, they were like telling me stories. I'm like, shoot, I'm a little scary. So I'm like, let me just not. I'll just go and do what I already did. But on a Monday morning, and then we were there for hours because I think they said 7 girls showed up trying to give birth. And I was like, and since I was a scheduled C-section, they're like, oh, she can wait. So then we finally they finally take me to the room and I had to go walking, do everything. And I was like, this feels scary because an emergency C-section is completely different than so I was in the bed finally and I just feel like it was moving so slow. Like, I feel like I was there for 2 hours. Even Chris got scared because they're like, what's taking forever? Emergency C-section is like 20 minutes, you're in and out. No. Did you have a C-section with?
No, I didn't. It wasn't a dramatic movie water breaking scene. I was in labor for about 3 days and which you made me think of something. So they wouldn't admit me because my water hadn't broken yet. And also I wasn't at least 5 centimeters, but I was in so much pain. Like, I watched so many videos and I feel like nothing can prepare you for contractions.
No.
Like,
I
nothing.
did it with my first. So whenever I was feeling contractions, I was like, what's this? So I should have left work because I'm like, I'm about to give birth. But it was a false alarm. So I'm like, I had no idea they start for days. Because with the late, I was induced at 37 weeks. I had him at 39 weeks. So I'm saying it was completely different. So I didn't know what to expect. Like,
it was so hard. And I think that was the other thing that I just realized too. Like, maybe I was like, this is cruel. They have to admit me because I was in so much pain. And I think that what you're saying, because I think they had too many people. So they were like, I think you could wait a little bit longer. You know what I mean? Like, you're not at the stage that these other women are at. And I didn't think about that until just now when you said it. Like, maybe they had like additional people there that were waiting because there was another lady in another room and my midwife was taking so long. Like I was ready to push her out, and the nurse was like, "Wait, like we have to wait for the midwife to come." And I was like, I can't wait. Like she has to go."
You can control that.
Yes. And so finally she had been dealing with another woman that she herself was having some bleeding issues. And so she was back and forth between us. But yeah, I feel like they were like booked throughout the floor. But yeah, I felt every contraction and I pushed. I did have an epidural though. So I was trying not to, but I was so tired. I had been in labor for
I
so
could
long.
imagine.
Yeah, it was like wild.
But then after I finally had him, it was like the best feeling ever. Because you're like, you finally see that cleft, and then what was I worried about? Like, why was I worrying about it? He's beautiful. It was perfect. And then I stayed there for another 20 minutes, and I just hear them count 1, 2, 3, 20 times. I'm like, why are y'all still counting? But they were trying to make sure they got everything out while they were cleaning my C-section, all that stuff. They were making me more nervous because they kept counting the same thing. It was scary.
Yeah. Wow.
And then she closed me up bad. When I went to my follow-up, then is Tyler. So then I went to Sulphur Springs like a week, 2 weeks later, so they could see my, and she was trying to take the little bandage. I didn't cry trying to stand up from the hospital because you're supposed to stand up and move around that first 2 days. And I'm like, I didn't cry trying to stand up, but that hurt.
Wow. Yeah, I always say I can imagine. I can't really imagine that, but yeah, I think in just thinking about even so, when I had Giselle, I was a first time mom. And so you don't really realize as well that like everything is, you don't matter anymore. And I think, I don't know whether this happened in your case, they were so focused on Mateo that it was just like, get her sewed up. And they were like rushed into the baby. It's get her, she'll survive. And that became really apparent to me by the way that when Giselle was admitted to the NICU, just the way that they treated me, like I was very like secondary, like they were doing everything that they can they were all hands on deck for Giselle, and which of course that's my baby. I know like now, but in the moment, I don't think that you realize that like the way that it is, it's like baby first, mother second. Yes. And yeah, so did Mateo have to spend any time in the NICU? Like after you were able to, you heard those sounds, the 1, 2, 3 and all that stuff, how was he doing?
He didn't go to the NICU, actually. I was surprised because I think they said there was mucus stuck in him for a little bit. I think it was the first 3 days because you could hear it in
like
his
he's
throat.
congested or something.
Yeah, he was in the NICU, but we did have to stay there a little bit longer because he lost a lot of weight. I think they said 12th percentile of his weight he lost. And then we had to go to a lot of our doctor's appointments because he was maintaining the weight. So after that, we went, like the next day, we went to my pediatrician and to see what milk he should be using. And they actually told me to do 22 calorie instead of 20 calories.
So I was breastfeeding in the beginning, not breastfeeding, but I was pumping in the beginning. And then I was supplementing too to make the breast milks to have her gain so that she had less reflux. But yeah, I did hear about that, about having like higher calorie formula. What formula is that? Do you remember the brand?
So we use, I think, the yellow Eminfil. I think it's NeuroSure Eminfil or Eminfil NeuroSure. It's a yellow can. And my pediatrician actually said, y'all have WIC. So I'm like, yeah, we do. So he was able to write like a prescription for them to be able to give it to us. That's the only thing they can give it to us. But I was also pumping, and I tried breastfeeding, but with the bilateral, they say it's less likely for you to be able to breastfeed. So I was exclusively pumping for almost 8 months.
Oh, wow. You lasted really long. Congratulations.
And I was going to try longer for a year, but I was like, mentally, I can't do it no more. You have to be there mentally as well for pumping because it's really hard. People don't realize how hard it is.
Yeah. I think as well, like if you're a working mom, I mean, it's hard regardless, but if you're also like working, like you have other things and then going to the appointments and stuff and having to pump, then you start missing pumps and then you get like pain. it's a lot. It was so much, like I was in so much pain from pumping just physically. And I was so tired, and it really is. It is so hard. So
Yes, I got some wearable pumps, but even then, sometimes my Elisa, she wanted me to be with her, play with her, you know? So I finally got some wearable pumps, and they hurt at first. Then I realized I was using the wrong, is it
it's a
flange?
flange, yeah.
You-
I know that I tried every like flange too, and I was just like, they say like this isn't supposed to hurt, but this hurts. So I don't know what else to
Yeah.
do.
So after I changed it, it was amazing. So I'm like, I didn't realize it.
Oh
But
wow. I feel like
yes,
I tried every size and it was still hurting. I don't know, but
a spray. I think it was coconut spray, and that made it easier after I got
oh
that stuff.
wow.
It was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So Mateo has had his lip repaired, right? Did you all do the pre-adhesive or anything like that, or you just did the
No.
NAM and then surgery?
So we did a NAM, then the lip surgery, and they actually did the soft palate too.
Oh wow,
Yes.
together.
Yes. Just breaks my heart thinking about it. But going in, I was nervous. As a mom, you don't want to give your kids, especially knowing the outcome, because he's going to be in pain. I don't like seeing my kids in pain. I wish I could take that pain away, but he did really good besides the pain. We were there for 3 nights because I was not comfortable leaving with him in pain, and he was not taking his milk either.
Hmm.
So it was a little chaotic in there, and actually we stayed at the PICU because his oxygen levels. They said they just wanted to check on him, make sure everything was fine and he didn't have any problems. But we stayed there, and he took his IV out that first night. I don't know if he was kicking too much, and he took it off, and they're like, you know what, let's just try and see if he can do it without the IV. And we tried that night, and then nurse came back in the morning. This isn't after. She comes back in, and then she's like, you know what? He only took 1 ounce, half an ounce that night. So we're going to put his IV. We don't want him dehydrated. So she put it back in, and she actually put it in her arm and did like a little cast. So he was, and taped it real good so he wouldn't be able to take it off again.
Oh
But like
wow.
that, he's a warrior. He's something else.
Yeah.
Also,
What was your reaction when you saw the repair? Let me just say this. Mateo is like so cute. Like he is adorable. And
yeah,
then like I met him at ClevCon, and literally he is so smiley. Like he is
yes.
like the happiest baby. Like we were like all saying hi to him. And
I'm
he was
telling
so
you.
like bashful, and he smiled so cute. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
He is a sweetheart. He loves being around people. He's so friendly. And they also say, I also think he's with the NAM, especially that he smiles with his eyes.
Yeah.
Like you could see like the little like indentation on his eyes.
Yeah, no, he is so cute. Like so before, right? Of course, you obviously saw him and you were so in love with him. And then like after seeing him with the repair, like his new smile, what was your reaction?
So I was happy, but like we cried. Me and Chris cried because we're like, he was in pain. Like he was just like fussy. Like you could hear that cry where it hurts, if that makes sense. Like he's hurting. That just made us cry. We're like, you know what? But he's gonna be okay. Like at the end, we're like, he's gonna be okay. This is worth it. Give him like 4 days, and he's not gonna remember it because they're babies. They might feel it right now, but like in a couple of days, once they start playing, like you don't really remember about it like we do as grown-ups.
Yeah.
He would smile after a few days. Whenever he could try to smile, I was like, my heart just melted.
Yeah. You talk about Chris a lot, your husband. How was he able to like navigate all of these emotions and these different like steps along the journey?
I think he tried to be strong for me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm crying. I think he tried to be strong because I'm a very emotional person, as you can see. And I don't know if it's the cancer in me. We're very emotional. So, but he was there he went to all my appointments. maybe besides one, that was just like, since I had preeclampsia with my first, they just wanted to do another test to make sure I didn't have it this time. But he went to almost all of them. If not, my mom went because he was working as well. And we couldn't both ask off either because we work at the same restaurant. So you know what? My mom's off this day. Let me go this day so you won't have to miss a day of work. But
Yeah.
he was a trooper.
Oh, wow.
Was-
And yeah. And how were you finally able to get Mateo to feed and get to his normal routine? What's some tips that you could give to a mom that maybe helped you?
a lot of people that helped me and in different ways, you know, like I messaged you, Gina, the celebrating mama, and then Monique. I wish I could have found everybody whenever I was pregnant, because I actually found out about the group because I went to a store about 30 minutes from where I live, and the lady stopped me and she said, can I see your son's lip? Because my daughter was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate. And then we're there talking for an hour, literally. And then she's like, you should follow the Cleft group. And then she just gave me her phone number. We stayed in contact for a little bit, but then you get busy you know.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad I found the group because I was lost. And he was a month old whenever I found the group. And I really do wish I would have found that group before when I was pregnant with him, because I don't want to say depressed. Like I was sad all the time. Like
Yeah.
I cried for every little thing, especially with my hormones.
Yeah, that I think I didn't find the groups until until Giselle was about 3 months. And before that, you're so right. You feel like, I know, for me, I felt like I was the only one who was experiencing this. And until I found the groups and I saw hundreds of messages from moms just saying, hey, this is happening. Like my child was born with this and like the feeding and all these things. And I wish that I had known about all these things that in that way, like I had like these actual like real stories like of people that were going through this. And because I was only going based on what the doctors had told me. And to your point, what you were saying about how in the beginning, Chris was Googling everything and you shut down a little bit because it was too hard for you to talk about and manage that. I think we share that in common. Like we share that and like, I was the same way. Like I didn't really want to talk about it with anyone. I actually didn't even tell very many people until I was like certain about what it was and that I could like really speak to it and really talk about it without wanting to cry.
Yes.
So,
I still cried about telling people. But I was like, we only told our parents, our siblings. And then me working in the restaurant, it's hard because they always ask, oh, how are you doing today? And I was like, good. But then there's those customers who are like, you love them. I told some customers like, oh, this is what's wrong. And they're like, oh, it's going to be okay because I have a niece or something, somebody, a family member that was born with the cleft and this is what they're doing now. I'm like, oh, that made me feel better. But it's just, I didn't tell my friends either till I was about to give birth. Because I didn't post him till he was almost a month because I was scared. Like of the judgment. You know, because like sometimes they're like, oh, so what? Why did that happen? As a waitress, I'm like, I don't want to cry while I'm working either because they're like, oh, I think they always blamed the mother. So that was, I was scared because what if they blame me and I didn't do anything?
Yeah. And I guess how were you able, or when did you start to be more or feel like you could be more of an advocate for Mateo? Like, when did you make that turn? It's like, no, I want to start talking about this. This is a problem that needs to be talked about more. We need to have more information and awareness out there so that people aren't like, I feel like it's okay for people to ask, oh, how does this happen? But I think that condescending tone or that judgment needs to be like removed from it, because as we know, you and I both know that it is not the mom's fault. Sometimes it's just genetics, but sometimes it just happens. So when did you start to make that turn and put yourself out there as I'm a cleft mom and everyone should know it, you know?
Yes. And like I said, I had family members who had cleft lips as well. on both sides, my husband and I side. So we don't know exactly if it's genetic or not. Whenever I started, so actually there was this one time I went to Target, I think after like an appointment or something, and I took Mateo. And this little girl, maybe 10 years old, she's, what happened to his lip? And I didn't take it the wrong way because she's a little girl. And I'm like, oh, this is a bilateral cleft lip palate, I think I said. And then she asked if you can have surgery. And like, yeah, he's gonna get surgery in a couple months. And I told her this happens. It can be genetic. It can, try to educate her about it. So I told her like how many surgeries he was gonna have. And then she leaves and she's telling his grandma, I think it was his grandma. Her grandma, she's, oh, Mom, the little boy was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate. And he's going to fix it. Like, so happy. I was like, I think I did the right thing, Online, I actually started because I found the celebrating mama, Gina, who I love now. She's amazing. But I think on my reels, it just popped up. And then I was like, let me watch it. And then I stalked her a little bit because I think I have to do a little stalking. And she said that they were going to have her lip surgery in a couple weeks because Mateo had his at 3.5 months. I think Brianna had her surgery like at 6 months, I want to say.
Mhm.
And she's older than Mateo. So it was like a few weeks after Mateo's surgery. So then I started following her and she was educating people. So I was like, you know what? I could educate my goal is to educate my community.
Yeah.
First, because when he goes to school, I don't want him to get bullied. That's my fear as a mother.
Yeah.
So I started sharing a little bit of his process. I don't try to share everything of him just because I want him to have a little, I don't want him to be like, I don't want to go viral and everybody knows him because people are mean at the end of the day. Like, I don't know if you and Gina can do it because emotionally, I could not. Like I said, I'm a very sensitive person. But like, my goal is to like eventually do something for him, even it's, I don't know what yet, but I do want to educate people. I share a lot of the posts. I'm more of a share post, or I'll share his surgeries or what's going on with his doctor's appointment.
Yeah. What's next for Mateo in terms of surgeries?
So he'll actually have his next surgery we're hoping November 6th. Actually, maybe before we'll have ear tubes. I had a problem with their insurance, so I had to just went ahead and switch, are going local now for this one, and then maybe I'll go back to her eventually. But he will have his palate repair November 6th, and my surgeon actually does another surgery with it. He does the nose lengthening. My accent cannot let me say it.
The thing that divides your nostrils. So this little thing right here. So to lengthen it so that, they will lengthen this part of your nose, the one that's in the little column, the column in between your nostril.
So the nose, he actually said he was, because it's, I don't know if it's just bilateral, but I could be wrong. It might be unilateral kids too, where their nose looks flat. And then so that he will actually make it, I guess, thinner. So he'll make it thinner and push it up in a way so he looks more normal, I guess you could say.
Yeah. That seems like it's going to be like pretty intense. What do you do to prepare for something like that? What do you take to the hospital, but also like how do you prepare emotionally?
Emotionally, I know I'm going to cry already. I know I'm going to cry before giving him and when he comes back just because he's going to be in pain. But I'll probably ask the group what to bring because he will be 18 months old when they do that. I know a lot of palate repair, they do it around before a year old, if not 12 months, 13 months, the latest. But our surgeon actually does it at 18 months. What to take? I probably just take lots of dark clothes for me in case he's really bloody this time, since it is going to be in the nose now. It's different surgeries. I don't know how. I feel like this might be a little bit harder because it's also the nose. Recovery might be longer too.
Yeah.
But I'll probably try to take some toys. I'm still trying to see what he's into at that time. But snacks, because at least for us, because he won't be able to eat for a little bit. But for him, I'm still not sure. I do want to take my Cleft onesie that you saw at CleftCon.
Oh, yeah.
Brand new one, just like a really cute one, but
Yeah. So his palate is still open. So does he still
Yes,
have? Is he? But he's still eating table food or just
yes,
solid food?
girl, he loves to eat. He loves to eat. We'll be sitting down. I'm eating. Let's say he just finished eating. Let's say he just finished eating. I'm sitting down finishing my food. He'll come to me so I can give him more food.
Oh wow,
Or
that sounds.
yeah, and he's a snacker too.
Yeah.
His food and he's running to you to get him more.
Yeah, that's how Giselle is. But she goes to her dad. Like anytime she hears like a crinkling, because she knows he eats all the like snacks and all the like bad stuff. And
Yes.
so like it's like it's so silly. It's like a puppy. She like hears the little bag and she goes running
Yes.
towards him. It's like
Yes.
Giselle. My goodness.
You just
Um,
ate. Like you're acting like we don't feed you. And then my daughter, she's the opposite. She barely eats. Like they're a snacker, and I try not to do this because I know it's bad. But if they're hungry, like we can't really do anything.
yeah.
I mean, she
One of the
communicates.
things I've always said is when you have a baby that you didn't know how you were going to feed them in the beginning, you are grateful that they are eating anything.
Yes.
It's really, before I became pregnant, I just knew I was going to have like, this healthy kid and I was going to try everything I can to be like, do everything right. But when you are thrown into a situation where you just want your kid to eat anything, like just
Yes.
eat anything, gain weight, you get in this mindset that it's like, of course, within reason, right? You're not gonna
Yeah.
just be feeding your kids like junk all day. But like you just get in this mindset that I'm just glad that they're healthy and that they're gaining weight. That's like really like your primary goal. In terms of Delisa, did you have to tell her anything about Mateo when he was born? Did she like question anything? I know she's still fairly young herself, so she may not have noticed at all, but was there anything that she mentioned or did you all have any conversations about it?
So she was 2.5 months, 2.5 years when Mateo was born. So I didn't really tell her anything. But when we came back from the hospital, because she was with my in-laws for 3, 4 days. I can't remember how long we stayed at the hospital. But we set him down and she's like, it's a boo. And she would point to his lip. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, that's not bad. I could accept that as a mom. We didn't tell her anything because she was 2 years old. Like, I don't think she would have comprehend what was really going on, you know? She just knew we were going to doctor's appointments and would have fun afterwards. But all she did was, it's a boo. It's a boo. Every time she would see him or talk to him or be there with him, it's a boo. And I'm like, yeah, you don't touch it because it hurts. And like, it hurts? And that was just in it. And then after we came back from from his surgery, she's like, "Oh, it's fixed." That was it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
now I did get some books. Now that she's a little bit older and I can read it, and she loves Ava the Brava. That's her favorite.
Yeah. That one I actually just recorded with Allie, and she's thinking about doing like a series or like
Oh,
writing another book, but of course it's really difficult to do that. But we look forward and we want to support. We definitely
yeah,
want to support Allie and
yeah.
everything. Yeah,
I'm thinking about getting Gloria's book, Archer with the Cleft.
Archie the Klepty. Yep,
Yes.
yep.
I just found her from ClefCon. I was like, I had no idea that was her, but I've seen the book. I just didn't know that was her when I talked to her. And I was like,
Yeah.
and we followed each other. Oh, that is you. I'm not good with names. You told me I might know it, but their names, I'm like, what's her name?
Oh, what do you think what is something that you wish people knew about children with cleft lip and palate?
They are so strong. They're really strong. I can't really think about it. People don't think they're really strong because they have to go through everything.
Yeah.
Surgeries. I mean, and it's depending on how severe they were born. Like this is like a 18-year process.
Mm-hmm.
It's an 18-year process, and I could only imagine. Like we see it as parents, but them feeling everything, especially once they're a little bit older, they're gonna feel everything, and I couldn't handle it myself. Like you just think about it, and, like I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I just said really strong. They are brave. They're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. What do you think was the hardest part in your journey? Do you think diagnosis, having to do the weekly appointments, surgery, which phase in the process has been the hardest?
I think I was pregnant, knowing what was going to happen, being being so emotional, crying all the time for the little smallest thing. They would ask about Mateo, just that. I would try not to break down, but in the inside, I wanted to cry because you're blaming yourself. So I think that was the hardest. But obviously, seeing him in pain is also hard. But I'm not feeling that at the same time. Like, I'm not feeling what he feels. I only cry because I know he's in pain.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think diagnosis.
I think diagnosis is really hard. And that's why I started this podcast as well, is because I know that diagnosis is really hard. And so like new moms that are looking for resources that need like support in that, like in accepting that and like navigating that, I think it's helpful to hear other stories about it.
Okay, at the end of the day,
Mm.
it's hard. I know it's hard, but they're gonna be perfect. They're gonna be healthy.
Yeah. It's so funny. I keep on looking. I can picture Mateo's like little face. I'm telling you, he's so adorable. And
Yes.
you're right. He's fine.
Yeah.
He's going to have to go through a lot, as well as so many of our children. But at the end of the day, they are going to be okay.
Yes.
And I think the biggest lesson that I've learned like changes throughout the whole like journey. And sometimes the hardest thing that I've learned, sometimes it's like the lesson that I learn as well. But I think that it goes back to what you said, that children are resilient.
Mhm.
And that it might not be like okay today, but it will eventually be okay.
Yes.
And that Cleft is something that is part of your journey right now, but it's not like your entire story. It's not like your entire identity. And I've spoken to so many moms that like they say now their child is like 8 or their child is like they have teenagers and they're like, we don't even talk about clefts anymore. And it's so hard to imagine like now that we're in like this space and stuff like that and we're in the thick of the process. It's what? You don't even talk about it anymore? Like I've thought about that, what that looks like for our future. And yeah, like I talked to Cecilia, she's at Cleft Glow on Instagram and it's not even a part of our daily conversations anymore. Like we don't really talk about it. And so just knowing that, I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is that this is just one step in this journey, but it doesn't have to be like your identity, and you'll get through it and everything is going to be okay.
That is true, though. In some way, because I also want to still keep advocating for your child, for somebody a new mom, for her to come to you and be like, what's going to happen, the whole process, or just letting her know it's going to be okay at the end of the day.
Yeah. I love seeing the stories in the groups that's, oh, my kid is like 19 and they were born at such and such time and they had this, and trust me, like you're going to be okay. I love reading those stories. They're so
And
amazing.
there's also a group for Dallas, DFW, and I always try to post like work of Dr. Hot or surgeon, and I just see the before and after picture. I'm like, that is amazing. His work is amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Jimena, for sharing your story with me today. Thank you so much for listening to the Our Forever Smiles, Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. Be sure to subscribe and submit a review of the podcast wherever you listen. I hope that you've enjoyed this audio experience. Maybe you cried a little, laughed a little, but more importantly, I hope that you feel a little piece of reassurance and even joy in your journey. Talk to you next week.